I want to read to you what it says in the definitions of a Black's Law Dictionary of white persons. As used in Rev. Stat U.S. 2169 Naturalization Act, March 26, 1790, C31, Stat 103, as amended by Act February 18, 1875, C81, 18, Stat 318, U.S. 8 U.S.C.A. 7031. Members of the white or Caucasian race as distinct from the black, red, yellow, and brown races. Petition of Zerk Emson Char 273F207209, yada yada, goes on. Whether applicant for United States citizenship is a white person eligible for citizenship under statute enumerating classes of people eligible, therefore, depends not upon ethnological classification of group to which he belongs, but upon whether members of such group with characteristics existing in 1790 when statute was first enacted were intended by Congress to be classified as white persons. Imri Ahmed Hassan, D.C., Michigan, 48F sub and statutes uses the words white persons as meaning primarily the European peoples who constituted the class from which virtually all of immigration to the United States has come and who readily become assimilated into our civilization. The term excludes a Hindu, U.S. versus Ali, D.C., Michigan, 7F2D, a Mongolian, Saweed, 155 case, Henry Fisher, Terrace versus Thomas, Henry Lampito, a native-born Filipino, it excludes them, Henry Karaja, a native of Afghanistan, Henry Faraz, an Arab, Henry Ahmed Hassan, contra Henry Morez. It has been held to include a Syrian, Henry Ellis, Besfo versus U.S., and an Armenian, Henry Halajan. In the legislation of the slave period, persons without admixture of colored blood, whatever the actual complexion might be, see also white race. In South Africa, persons of European descent. White race. Within the meaning of the Mississippi Constitution of 1890, Section 207, providing that there shall be separate schools for the white and colored races. The Caucasian race, the term colored races being used in contradistinction to the white race and embracing all other races. Rice versus Gong Lam. White rents. In English law, rents paid in silver and called white rents or reditus albi to distinguish them from rents payable in corn, labor, provisions, etc., called black rent or blackmail. White slave, a term used in the United States statutes and in common talk, though not very appropriately, to indicate a female with reference to whom an offense is committed under the so-called Man-White Slave Traffic Act of June 25, 1910, 18 U.S.C. A. Section 24, 21, 24, 24, prohibiting the transportation in interstate and foreign commerce for immoral purposes of women and girls. White spurs, a kind of esquires. White caps, the name of an unlawful organization against which Tennessee in 1897 enacted a statute, Act 1897, C-52, entitled An Act to Prevent and Punish the Formation or Continuance of Conspiracies and Combinations for Certain Unlawful Purposes, etc., commonly known as the law against white caps. Persons guilty of any offense under the Act were rendered incompetent for jury service. White Friars, a place in London between the Temple and Blackfriars, which was formerly a sanctuary and therefore privileged from arrest. White Hart Silver, a mulct on certain lands in or near to the forest of White Hart paid into the exchequer imposed by Henry III upon Thomas de Linda for killing a beautiful white hart, which that king before had spared in hunting. There's a lot of prejudiced stuff in this Black's Law Dictionary. And this explains that a white person, they distinguish to be separate from, and I'm not a United States citizen, and I've been labeled as an ex-convict, so I lost my U.S. citizenship, which is a good thing because I'm not a slave. The 14th Amendment was changed by President Lincoln. So, Whiteacre, a fictitious name given to a piece of land in the English books for purposes of illustration. White bonnet in Scotch law, fictitious offerer or bidder at a roup or auction sale. And I claimed my blue bonnet, but anyway, a person in the Black's Law Dictionary. You want to hear what the definition of a person is? Let's see. A man considered according to the rank he holds in society, with all the rights to which the place he holds entitles him, and duties which it imposes. People versus our company. The word in its natural and usual signification includes women as well as men. Term may include artificial beings as corporations. That's what person is. It says this in page 1299 of the Black's Law Dictionary. Corporations, and foreign corporations under statutes forbidding the king of property without due process of law and giving to all persons the equal protection of the laws concerning claims arising from Indian depredations relating to taxation and the revenue laws, People versus McLean, to attachments, usurious contracts, Philadelphia Loan Company, applying to limitation of actions, and concerning the admissibility as a witness of a party in his own behalf when the opposite party is a living person. A corporation is also a person under a penal statute. Corporations are persons, as that word is used in the first clause of the Sixth Amendment. Covington and L. Terp Company, People versus Fire, U.S. versus Supply Company. But a corporation of another state is not a person within the jurisdiction of the state until it has complied with the conditions of admissions to do business in that state. Fire Association of Philadelphia, New York. And a statutory requirement of such conditions is not in conflict with the Sixth Amendment or the 14th Amendment. Pennsylvania, it may include partnerships in Reed Julian D.C., Pennsylvania. Also firm State X Rel, Joseph R. Peoples Sons versus State Board of Pharmacy. Persons are of two kinds, natural and artificial. A natural person is a human being. Artificial persons include a collection or succession of natural persons forming a corporation, a collection of property to which the law attributes the capacity of having rights and duties. The latter class of artificial persons is recognized only to a limited extent in our law. Examples are the estate of a bankrupt or deceased person. It has been held that when the word person is used in a legislative act, natural persons will be intended unless something appear in the context to show that it applies to artificial persons. Appeal of Fox, but as a rule, corporations will be considered persons within the statutes unless the intention of the legislator is manifesting to exclude them. A country is a person in a legal sense, but a sovereign is not. A sovereign is not a person. Sovereign and read U.S. versus Fox, but contra within the meaning of a statute providing a penalty for the fraudulent alteration of a public record with intent that any person be defrauded, and within the meaning of a covenant for quiet and peaceful possession against all and every person or persons. Giddings versus Halter. An Indian is a person, U.S. versus Crook, and a slave was so considered insofar as to be capable of committing a riot in conjunction with white man. State versus Thackman. The estate of a decedent is a person. And where the statute makes the owner of a dog liable for injuries to any person, it includes the property of such person. But where the statute provides damages for the bite of a dog which had previously bitten a person, it was held insufficient to show that the dog had previously bitten a goat. A dog will not be included in the word in an act which authorizes a person to kill dogs running at large. Where the statute prohibited any person from pursuing his usual vocation on the Lord's Day, it was held to apply to a judge holding court. A child in ventre-samir is not a person, but an infant is so considered a person. Because when you're born in their hospice military wards, they don't record your real name. They only need your father's surname to create the bond. In the United States Bankruptcy Act of 1898, it is provided that the word person shall include corporations except where otherwise specified in officers, partnerships, and women, and when used with reference to the commission of acts which are therein forbidden shall include persons who are participants in the forbidden acts, and the agents, officers, and members of the board of directors or trustees or their controlling bodies of corporations. 11 U.S.C. Section 1. Persons are the subject of rights and duties, and as the subject of a right, the person is the object of the correlative duty, and conversely, the subject of a right has been called by Professor Holland the person of inherence, the subject of a duty the person of incidence. Entitled and bound are the terms in common use in English, and for most purposes they are adequate. Every full citizen is a person. Other human beings, namely subjects who are not citizens, may be persons, but not every human being is necessarily a person, for a person is capable of rights and duties, and there may well be human beings having no legal rights, as was the case with slaves in English law. A person is such not because he is human, but because rights and duties are ascribed to him. The person is legal subject or substance of which the rights and duties are attributes. An individual human being considered as having such attributes is what lawyers call a natural person. First book of jurisprudence, Gray, Nature and Sources of Law. Persona, in the civil law, character and virtue of which certain rights belong to man and certain duties are imposed upon him. Thus one may unite many characters, as for example the characters of father and son, of master and servant. In ecclesiastical law, the rector of a church instituted and inducted for his own life was called persona mortalis. Any collegiate or conventual bodies to whom the church was forever appropriated was termed persona immortalis. Jacob. So, I am a living woman, and female means chattel. It is an animal term, and I'm not a corporate fiction person, but I've done my due diligence to be unincorporated with my lien and levy on my soul, because if you look up pedius possessor, that's your pedius position, that no one can be harmed when working in the public domain. And so, this is a personal law as opposed to territorial laws, the law applicable to persons not subject to the law of the territory in which they reside. It is only by permission of the territorial law that personal law can exist as the present day, e.g. it applies to British subjects resident in Levant and other Mohammedan and barbarous countries under the Roman Empire. It had a very wide application. Well, I'm not part of your Roman Empire, nor Caesar, nor your civil law. I have non-civilist rights, and I don't agree with all these man-made laws that you made that are that go against the people.